Good morning, hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's officially the time of year where I start looking like a bowling ball because I'm wearing 45 layers. It doesn't help that it's extremely moody and windy today, but hopefully going to do another shoot and edit video where we try and get a worthy image of editing and showing you the editing process behind the image. So I've got a couple of spots I'm going to today, one of them just around this corner and another one in a bit. I'm not sure if it even exists anymore, which I'll explain when we get there. So we'll go check that out. Let's get moving. I'm gonna get down there to hopefully get this first image. So subject number one is this old station in the background. Very windy, so I hope you can hear me. Also ridiculously moody in the sky. I don't know how well that's coming out in the camera, but there's no light hitting the building. So this may be a case in the edit. Again, like my last video, I'm kind of pre-visualizing the shot here for the edit, but we need light on that building. So it'll be a case of shooting it nice and in focus and then giving that building a pop in post with an object selection or something like that. So let's go ahead and take an image. What I like here is this dead heather here that runs in a sweeping fashion up to the building. Obviously it would be miles better if the heather was bloomed, but it is nearly December. So I've just come a little further up the hill here to this dead heather patch. And to be honest, although the heather's dead, I still think it makes a nice foreground. You can also pull that colour up a little bit if you wanted to. Or what I'm gonna do is shoot it at f4 and just have it a little bit out of focus. As of this month, I will have owned this lens here, the 16-35 f4 from Sony Zeiss, or Zeiss, for 7 years. Bought it in 2017. Is that 7 years? 4, 5, 6? Yeah, it is 7 years. Which is, I think, a really great testament to when you pick a lens that really suits your photography style, your needs, what you need out of a lens, and just rolling with it for that long. It is battered, as you probably will have seen in videos before. I've spoke about it in videos before. It's got scrapes all over it and all sorts of stuff, but functions like it does on day one. It's a third of the price now. I think you can pick it up for around £500. At the time I paid £1,500 for it. So, and you know what? It's an absolute banging lens. It is old. Yes, it's only f4, but as demonstrated hopefully in this video, using f4 and getting really close to stuff in the foreground, you can still get loads of foreground blur anyway. Obviously you won't pick this lens up for something like astrophotography or something, but the interesting thing is, I think, when you do stick with a lens for a long period of time, and then you look back on your photos, look through your Lightroom catalog or whatever editing program you're using, you start to realize what focal length you use the most. And from there on out, you can then make much more calculated purchases. My car actually looks so cool parked up there. Should I take a photo of my car? Volkswagen, if you're watching, get in touch. Extremely risky 3-point turn. And I've got my seatbelt on. Oh yeah, I have. Okay, so I want the next left driving down here. And like I said earlier, I'm not sure if this place, like what it is or even if it exists. It's something I saw on Google Maps from satellite view. And actually, I don't know when I pinned it. I had it pinned probably like a year ago. And I stumbled across it on Google Maps last night when I was looking for places close to that shot I've just taken up there. Okay, yeah, so by the looks of it, definitely just an old farm building, but super aesthetic and interesting either way. I'm kind of kicking myself because I'm sure you can see that huge tree kind of coming out the side over the roof. And I'm assuming, given the wind and the little coverage around here, these ones are the first to lose their leaves. Probably in the entire world, but if I'd come here, if I'd have known if I'd have spotted this pin on my map, you know, 2 weeks ago, a month ago, that could have been cracking. Like all things in photography, one to revisit, but let's see if we can move around and maybe get a winter-esque shot of it today. I don't know how well you can see the light popping through on the grass there. So I'm just going to shift this way a bit to try and minimize those branches there. So when you're shooting an old building like this, more so than ever, I think it's very much dependent on where the light's coming from, because there's some really cool old broken down brick walls over this side of the frame over here, which makes really nice gaps in the walls that I can shoot through and frame the house. But the light's up there, which means it will be directly in front of the lens when I'm taking the photograph, which results in the house being in a complete silhouette and the sky still blown out regardless. Literally just after saying that, I've noticed how much cloud cover has come in front of the sun, so this could potentially work now. And is there opportunity to do something with this gap? Okay, so I'm gonna get back into the car now, get on the road, get home, and let's see if we can edit up one of these photos. I really, really hope one of the farmhouse ones came out good enough to edit in this video. But what I will say is, before I jump to that segment, I've got a feeling that if I do really like one of those compositions that I shot today, it's probably not gonna need much editing anyway. So it'll be a fun little task to see if my intuition is correct. So see you in the studio. Okay, and we're back at the desk. I've chosen this particular photo to edit in this video, not because it's my favorite on the day, far from actually, but because I think it gives you a good insight to my thought process when I took the photo. So as you can see from looking at it, it's pretty chaotic, right? So I'm gonna go for a bit of a wide crop here, which hopefully demonstrates why I shot it so wide, to then be able to bring it up from the bottom. So if I just click on my crop here in the history panel, you can see where I've moved it to there. So let's go ahead and get moving with the edit. I'm going to be a little bit faster and snappier in this one. So on this image, I'm going to start by going up to my presets up here and apply sharp import clarity untouched. And what that's going to do is boost our sharpness quite a lot. So if we go over into the detail panel, you're going to see the amount slightly higher than the radius and detail. And it also applies our lens corrections for us. I spoke a little bit about this in the last episode again, about how my import presets work. Transform is untouched because I just did the crop with the crop tool like this, so you can see how much we're actually getting rid of the image. Noise reduction again, leaving untouched for this photograph. So let's jump down into our basic panel and start messing around with the colors and stuff like that a little bit. You'll also see here that my import preset has boosted the contrast by 5, bring the vibrance up by 10, and drop the saturation by 10, which I'm going to keep as well because I'm happy with that. Highlights, however, I'm mainly looking at the side of the building here where that big highlight's hitting and the grass along there. I'm not worried about the sky because the sky is so covered up by branches and stuff and this big tree that I'm not really worried about pulling the highlights down and affecting the sky, because the sky doesn't really hold much power in the image. So I'm going to bring the highlights down, just looking at that building mainly, and probably go to about 40, just so that that doesn't look too bright and in your face. Shadows and blacks I'm also going to bring down just to kind of complement a bit more of a darker, moody edit in this one. So I'm going to bring the shadows down probably to about -20, and then blacks to about -15 perhaps. And there's a lot of texture in this image with the branches in the back, the branches in the front, the grass on the floor. So I'm going to dial a little bit more texture back in just to about +10, +12. And then just to finish off this look in the basics panel, I'm going to go into our camera profiles. We're on Adobe Color right now, but I'm going to change that to Modern 6, which is part of my favorites panel here. So I'm going to select that and then bring it right down to maybe about 40. And that looks good to me. Camera profiles is definitely something worth playing around with and having a look through there and seeing which ones you like and seeing which ones can work on images going forward. They're not, a lot of them in there are a bit like overkill and you probably wouldn't want to use them, but sometimes they just add that little bit of extra pop, that little bit of extra color to your image. Most of the colors in this shot are obviously yellows and greens. There's some blues up there in the sky. I'm going to bring the luminance of the yellows and greens up, maybe about 26, 25 for the greens. I'm actually going to reset the yellows actually. I don't think I want that much, but maybe bring the oranges up instead. And that looks pretty good to me right there. Now I'm going to move over into saturation. And what I'm looking at for the saturation here is if we just zoom into this tree in the top, although that tree is pretty much 99% dead, there is quite a bit of orange in those dead leaves on the trees still. So we're kind of going to play with that and boost these oranges, or the warmer tones in the image, shall we say. So let's bring them oranges up a fair way. Let's go about 60. And if we just reset that, you'll see it does make quite a big difference to that tree in the top left-hand corner. Greens, I'm going to boost as well, not as much, just a slight boost there. So that's all the color and lighting changes I'm going to change on this particular image. What I am going to do though is come up into our masking tool and select object, which is here. And I'm going to draw on the front of this building just a pretty vague square like this. And it should hopefully pick up the front of the building quite nicely. So let's just have a look there. Yep, so it's not perfect, but it's picked it up pretty well. And obviously if you do something stupid like pull the exposure all the way up, you're going to see how flawed that selection is. But what I'm going to do is just boost the highlights and possibly the whites on this. So highlights maybe up to about 70, whites up, and also give it a little bit of warmth, like 10 or something like that on the slider. So if we turn that mask on and off there, you're going to see it brings the front of the building back in line with the side of the building with a bit of that orange look and slightly brightens it up. Again, not overkill so that it just looks ridiculous. So inside Photoshop here, and now this is probably going to be quite extreme in terms of what I'm removing in comparison to how much I remove on other images. And maybe I'll just circle pretty much everything that I'm going to spot, heal, clone or remove tool out rather than doing it all on camera. Probably remove this little bit here just because it's a bit distracting. There's an age-old technique that I learned. I can't remember where I saw it. I think it must have been a video. But if you squint, and hear me out, if you squint at a photo like this when it's on your screen, anything that stands out while you're squinting is considered a distraction. Absolutely no technical knowledge or fact behind that, but I actually find it to really work. So as I'm squinting at this image, this here, down here, is absolutely popping out to me. So that would be something I would probably clone stamp out. And then potentially, if possible, just this bit that impedes on the building like this. And maybe even down here like this, just to make sure the image becomes nice and clean. But like I say, I won't bore you all with clone stamping on this video, but I'll throw up the raw image right now, and then we'll throw up the finished image right now. I don't know if whether that's a drastic edit or not, maybe somewhere in between. I just thought this one was quite an interesting one to show. Hopefully it provides some value in some way, shape or form. So thank you so much for watching. Please check out episode 1 if you haven't already seen that. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.